Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be taking a look at the Nanmu Studios Blade, the Allosaurus. This is actually my first Nanmu figure, and for those of you that have not heard of Nanmu, they've been around for a couple of years and they are known for making quote-unquote unofficial Jurassic merchandise figures. I was originally tempted to get the W Dragon Allosaurus, but when I saw Nanmu was coming out with this really nice looking Allosaurus, I know most of their stuff is based off the Jurassic World, Jurassic Park franchise. This Allosaurus, at first glance is pretty accurate looking. I'm actually very impressed with this figure. There are a couple nitpicks I have with that, but we'll get to that a little bit later in the review. I ended up ordering this figure from AliExpress. It was about 50 bucks, but it took forever to get here from China because of the whole COVID situation. It took, I think, like 2.5 months to get to me, but good news is, Big Bad Toy Store is now a distributor for Nanmu, so I'm going to leave a link in the description to Big Bad Toy Store if you want to order any of the Nanmu figures from them. This figure comes in 2 different color schemes. The first one is based on the Allosaurus from Battle at Big Rock, and then we have this one right here, which is not based on any movie version. I opted for this one because I think this color scheme is much more striking than the Battle at Big Rock version. So before we take a closer look at the figure, let's take a look at what comes in the box. We actually get a couple cool little accessories in here. So let me just move this figure off to the side. It comes in this nice cardboard box, which is a little beat up coming in from China. You have a picture of the CG render that they used to make the model on the front of the box. You got the word Blade right here for the Allosaurus. Just a little bit of branding on top, and then not much else on the back. And inside the box, you get a unpainted figure of a character from the Jurassic franchise. This is Claire running in her high heels from a T-Rex with the road flare. It actually does come on a base, but I accidentally snapped the figure off. It's actually a very small connection point, so if you do get this figure, just be very, very careful that you don't want to snap this off. I'm going to glue it back on and actually end up painting this Claire figure. And you also get a nice little postcard inside the box. You get some nice artwork of the Allosaurus on this side, and then spinning it around, you get some more artwork of Blade. And you can see right here, they actually drew a picture of the Allosaurus Jamatsi skull, which I think is very cool. The Allosaurus Jamatsi is a newly described species of Allosaurus. And then, I was looking very closely at the head of this figure, and I really think the head of this Nanmu Allosaurus matches up pretty well to the skull of Allosaurus Jamatsi. The figure also comes very well packed inside its shipping box. It comes in a heavy black foam insert, so the figure is very, very secure during shipping. It actually kind of reminds me of how Reborn packages their products. Moving on to the figure itself, I absolutely love the pose this Allosaurus figure comes in. It's a nice, active, and dynamic looking pose. You got one foot lifting off the ground right here like the animal's in mid-stride. And this figure actually mounts very, very securely to the base right here. So I'm just going to pop the figure off. And it mounts really tight. It takes a little bit of work to take this figure off the base. You can see it has 2 connection points right here by these 2 steel rods. And if you look at the bottom of the feet right here, you can see the connection holes, and having 2 attachment points for this figure to stand on the base is definitely going to help with any leaning issues. I have a couple PNSO figures that only connect with 1 rod, and they both suffer some leaning issues. This figure has been in the studio. When I don't have the AC running in here, it gets to above 90 degrees, and there has been no issue with this figure leaning at all in those high temperatures. And since we got the base in hand, this is a really, really well done base. You got a nice footprint of the Allosaurus right here, obviously, where the foot would connect. And then you have some, let me just adjust the light, nicely sculpted in bones of what you would assume would be its prey. And then you have a nicely sculpted animite right here. And there's a lot of nice texture along this base. It looks like the muddy shore of a river or a lake. Definitely very well done. Nice looking base. I love very well done bases on dinosaur figures, and this is a really cool looking base. And then flipping it over, you have a profile of the Allosaurus skull on the bottom, and you got the word Blade, and you got the Nanmu Studios logo. So all around, definitely love this base. And you just need to just line up those two connection points and push in really hard. And this figure is not going anywhere. So let's just do a couple quick measurements. This figure is a good size figure. This figure measures just about 13 inches from the tip of the snout to the tip of the tail, and measuring from the foot on the base, this figure is about 4 inches high to the top of the hips right there. So Allosaurus is estimated to be around 30 something feet long. So I'll put this figure somewhere in the 128 scale, but there are some estimates of Allosaurus being up to 39 feet long. So if you use that maximum length estimate, this will put this figure nicely in that 135 scale range. All right, let's pop this figure off the base and take a closer look at it. I absolutely love the color scheme on this figure. Like I said, I think it's much more vibrant and appealing looking than the Jurassic World color scheme the other figure came in. It has a lot of nice mixture of orange and cream color and dark grays. You have this nice black stripe running from the base of the head right through the legs all the way down to almost the tip of the tail. All the colors are blended in very nicely, and my camera does not like focusing on the head. You can see you have some nice like almost like a rust color orange along the neck right here. Then it just slowly blends into this cream color along the belly and underneath the figure. You got that nice cream color that goes all the way down to the bottom of the tail. So all in all, a very nicely painted figure. So zooming in on the head, you can see the head is very well sculpted and very nicely detailed. You have a lot of nicely sculpted different size scales along the head right here, and especially along the bottom jaw. They did a really nice job sculpting the scales in on this figure. Now, like I said, it has a little bit of a longer skull that we're used to seeing on Allosaurus. Like I said, the head doesn't really resemble Allosaurus fragilis. It definitely resembles Allosaurus jamadsi. I know the figure does not come with a scientific name, so I guess you could consider this the first unofficial Allosaurus jamadsi figure based on this head shape. The eye is painted in red with a black pupil, and there's a nice gloss coat around the eye area to give it that wet look. Now the skull is very shrink wrap. You can clearly see the inorbital fenestra. Now right here is one of the problems I have with this figure. This opening right here is the temporal fenestra, and it is the wrong shape for an Allosaurus temporal fenestra. So if you're going to shrink wrap the heads on these figures, at least get the skull anatomy right. You can see the crest above the eye is done in a mixture of yellow and orange. The jaw is articulated. This is about as far as the mouth will close on mine. I've watched some other people's reviews, like Andy's, and it seems like the jaw on his closes pretty flush. Mine does not. Like, I keep squeezing it, and it just keeps slowly opening, and the mouth actually doesn't open up terribly wide. That's about it, but the teeth inside are very well detailed, and they are very sharp to the touch. They did a really nice job sculpting the teeth in on this figure. Look at that. Those teeth look absolutely fantastic. The tongue has a gloss coat on it to give it that wet look. So a lot of nice mouth detail. Very well done. You can see the nostrils are sculpted in right here. Just a really nice looking Allosaurus head, if I don't say so. Like I said, that temporal fenestra just really bugs me because, I do pay attention to dinosaur anatomy. Moving down to the neck, you see the neck is very well muscled. You have a little dewlap underneath here that is done in a little bit of a brighter color than the rest of the body. I think that is a nice little touch right here. You got some nice folds and wrinkles and scales sculpted in right here. Now, if you look at the back of this figure, it does have some really nicely sculpted scoots and scales, but my issue with that is way too similar to the back of a alligator or a crocodile. I mean, this Allosaurus is not a Spinosaurus reconstruction. It seems like, toy companies love giving Spinosaurus figures this crocodile look, and I just don't think it works on this Allosaurus figure. It just looks really out of place to me. But from a distance, you can't really notice these, but up close, that is just clearly crocodilian scaling. It just does not sit right with me. I kind of just wish they just kept going with this nicely, sculpted scales along the side right here, and just continue on the back instead of giving this crocodile-like back. And you can see the arms are not pronated. You got that large inner thumb claw of Allosaurus, which is a characteristic of that species. Very well done, kind of sharp to the touch. They are painted in really, really nice. You got some more of that scale detail along the side right here. The legs are very well sculpted, a lot of nice muscle definition. And this figure does a pretty good job of hiding the seams. You can see them a little bit right here along the arms and along the thighs, but it's not as blatant as some other figures. They definitely did a good job hiding the seams on here. And then you have a row of spikes coming up above the hips right here. Those are really, really cool looking. They're painted in that yellowish orange color, and then you have some more of those spikes along the top of the neck right here. And then going down to the feet are beautifully, beautifully sculpted. The toes are painted in a dark gray color. You got some nice scale detail along the feet right here, and I just love this lifted up foot right here, like it's about to take a stride. You got some nice detail. You got the dew claws sculpted in right here. Very, very sharp claws on the hind feet, and a very nicely detailed and muscled tail. You got more of that crocodile-like pattern going down to the tail. Stops right above the midpoint of the tail. You got a nice long tail on this figure. So all in all, besides those couple issues with the fenestra at the back here and just that crocodile scaling, this is a really, really nice looking Allosaurus figure. All right, let's move on with some comparisons. Here it is with the Papo Allosaurus. You can clearly see the Nanmu Allosaurus. It is much bigger than this very popular Papo figure. And here it is with the Safari Limited Allosaurus, which I think is still one of the best Allosaurus figures ever produced. And here it is with the Rebor Stegosaurus, and I think these two figures look absolutely fantastic next to each other. They actually scale pretty well with each other, and like I said, I love this Rebor Stegosaurus. I think Nanmu is doing a Jurassic style Stegosaurus. I saw some CG renders online. I don't remember if it was them or W Dragon, but right now this Rebor Stegosaurus is an excellent companion for this Nanmu Allosaurus. And lastly, you can't have comparisons without comparing this Allosaurus to a T-Rex. Here it is with the Rebor Killer Queen. Let me just get both these figures kind of into frame. So these figures are a little bit long, so it's kind of hard to get them all in. This Allosaurus does scale. The Rebor one is definitely a larger scale than this Nanmu Allosaurus. And lastly, here it is with the very well done, recently reviewed PNSO Wilson. And these two figures actually scale really, really well next to each other. So if you want to, scale two large theropods next to each other on your shelf, this Wilson scales really well with this Nanmu Allosaurus. So final thoughts on this figure. I really like this Allosaurus from Nanmu. It's not 100% perfect. Like I said, I do have a couple of nitpicks with it, especially with the skull anatomy and the use of crocodile scales for the back. But all in all, this is a really, really nice Allosaurus. If you pick up this figure, you're probably not going to be disappointed with it. It is not a cheap figure. It retails for about $60. And like I said, Big Bad Toy Store is now a distributor for Nanmu. So if you're in the US, you have a much easier way to get your hands on their figures. And since I'm so impressed with this figure, I decided to pre-order the Nanmu 135 scale Apatosaurus figure to go with this Allosaurus, because who doesn't need a 3-foot long Apatosaurus figure in their collection? That Apatosaurus figure is supposed to come out sometime this summer, so expect a full review on that monstrosity when I eventually get that figure in. So that will do it for the review. I have a bunch of new Mattel Jurassic World figures coming in next week, so expect reviews on those once I get my hands on them. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, show your support by hitting that subscription button just below the video. Each subscription helps out the channel tremendously and is greatly appreciated. And I'll see you for the next one.